Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we will continue to talk about empowered ways to deal with yours and others' anger, part 3, continuing where we left off. Anger isn't something to fear or suppress. It's a powerful signal that, when understood and handled consciously, can lead to deeper healing, stronger boundaries, and more authentic relationships. In this episode of Inspired and Empowered Living for a Thriving Business and Life, discover how to navigate both your own anger and others with confidence, clarity, and compassion. And in this episode, we're going to talk about grounding tools to stay calm when emotions run high, empowered communication strategies to de-escalate conflict, and the difference between reactive and responsive behavior and why it matters, and how to use your intuition to guide you to emotional healing and strengthen your relationships. And I'm your host, Nancy Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and intuitive business expert. I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to transform your life. And this show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It is for educational purposes only. And so we are going to, like I said, continue to talk about anger. And last week, we started having a discussion about unhealthy and healthy ways anger can be expressed. So I'm going to go over some basic principles so that you understand basic concepts, and this may be stuff that you already know, or maybe you're hearing this for the first time, but know when you have a beginner's mind that maybe you'll have insights and ahas that all of a sudden, oh, wow, I just got a really big hit right now, right here, a big realization. You never know. So I invite you to have that open beginner's mind. So first, on a psychological level, I'm going to do my Psych 101, because when we're talking about anger, what I want to teach you is healthy, responsive ways to handle anger. Now, when you're coming from your conscious mind, that is the part of you making conscious decisions, and it empowers you to say, oh, I get this. This is the decision I'm making in this moment. However, as human beings, okay, so this happens to all of you, all right? As human beings, we all can react. So if you get triggered and react with anger or annoyance or even rage at something someone said, something did, something that you've heard on TV, something that you listened to, something that you saw on social media, something that's happening in your life. You're having an emotional reaction. You've reacted, and that's coming from your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the part of you from the moment you were conceived to present time that has recorded every moment that you have been alive, including it could also have to do with past lives, and it could also include your ancestors, because all of that exists in your subconscious mind. And as I've said in previous shows, it's really important to understand what goes on in that subconscious mind of yours so that you can then take action with your conscious, making that conscious decision so that you can then create responsive. Okay, I see you. So I saw you asked a question or comment, Misty. I'll get to you in a sec. So it's being able to come from that conscious place. Now, there's also your superconscious mind, which is the part of you that is your higher aspects of self, like your higher self, this wise, unconditionally loving part of you, and your soul. And then, of course, you have your angels and guides and beings of light, your universal support system, and God, and whatever you choose to call it, that higher energy. And that's all part of these aspects of self that we're going to talk about in the show, especially when we're talking about conscious and unconscious behaviors, healthy and unhealthy ways anger gets expressed. So Misty said, we need to notice this trigger and try to contain the emotional reaction. Yes. And here's the thing, Misty, it's really important. And thank you, Misty, for bringing that up. And okay, I see your question, Mickey. It's really important. It's really important that you are in awareness. So thank you, Misty, for bringing that up, that you're in awareness that, oh, I just got triggered. I just had an emotional reaction. Because once you have the awareness and the realization, then you can do something about it. Because if you remain what I call unconscious and you just keep doing the same things you're doing, then you may not even notice that you've had a reaction. So one of the ways to become healthier in your life, especially dealing with anger for yourself and for others, is, if it's for yourself, is to notice when you have reacted and you have reacted to someone else or something that's happening. And if it's someone else's anger, and then you have a reaction. Now, you can have a reaction. Now, anger can be a very scary emotion when it's handled in unhealthy ways, which I'll get to very shortly. And if it's an unhealthy emotion and it gets acted out, it can be really scary. And so you may have an emotional reaction like fear. Maybe you're scared of the person, or maybe you feel intimidated, and which also is a fear reaction. So all of those can happen from that experience of of dealing with anger and learning. And it's about learning, okay? Because sometimes you're not always going to realize it. You're not always going to remember. You're not always going to have that aha. But I'm hoping that as you listen to the show and as you become more aware consciously, and this is where that conscious mind comes in, you start having more awareness. Oh, I'm having a reaction right now. And it's a reaction to something or someone else. I'm experiencing something. So, really important. Thank you, Misty, for bringing that up. Let's get to Mickey's. Mickey asks, which one controls the reactions and can we get control of the reactions? Okay. So, what happens is with the subconscious mind, it's the subconscious that has a reaction. And so it's an automatic. It's an automatic. And I also want to remind you that reactions started from when we were beginning of our species. Okay? There's the fight, flight, and freeze reaction response. And we will go into fight mode, reacting with anger or aggression. And that is it's automatic, it's instinctual. Okay, so you may have that reaction, and it's not that you not having it, because you're human, and so you may have the reaction. But what happens is you can gain control. Gaining control of the reaction is huge, and it is possible. And the first way to gain control of the reaction is to have awareness. Once you have the awareness, then you can do some grounding or breathing exercises. And I'll mention those again to help support you. And then you can make a decision on choosing what you want to do with the reaction, and so that then you go into going from reaction to choosing to respond. And that's coming from your conscious mind and super conscious mind. That's when you're in alignment or more grounded, and then you're choosing to make a response from that place. So we're going to go deeper into all of that. And as I love answering your questions, so if you have any others, let me know. And Anastasia says, we react without thinking most of the time. The emotions are highly charged. Yes. And that's why anger is one of those emotions that, like you're going to get triggered, and it's about what you do and process through. And again, the most important thing that I want to remind you is not that you're not going to react, because if you think that you're not going to react, that's not humanly possible. But it's how quickly, all right, this is important. It's how quickly you can turn that reaction around so that you can choose to respond. Now, if you are able to gain control, let's say you're annoyed, because annoyed might be the lower end of the scale of anger. If you're annoyed and you're like, okay, this person's annoying me, or I just got annoyed about what this person said, let me breathe, let me ground, let me excuse myself, go to the bathroom, take a time out, then you may be able to respond in the moment. But if you are feeling angry at the other end, angry, rage, hatred, I would recommend taking a longer time out before you communicate or say anything that you would later regret. And again, my motto is, you do not want to react in anger and hurt yourself, someone else, or the environment. And the unhealthy behaviors that I'm going to get to shortly are those behaviors where you're reacting. And you're reacting from that place of feeling a little bit out of control. And so if you can say to yourself, I'm having a very big reaction right now, like I'm feeling really enraged at this person or this situation or this experience, your job is to say, okay, I need to take a time out before I react, before I say anything, you're not going to be in response. You're going to be in that place. And you need to be able to process through before you respond. And that can take time. That can take time. Like, for example, I just recently had a reaction of something that happened in my business. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. And I've been processing through, and I knew that I could not talk to the person until I needed to be able to wait until I had calmed down before I chose to communicate. And that's what I did, so that I can communicate from a clear space. And especially in business, you want to make sure that this is in business and in close personal relationships. You know what? I'm taking that back. I'm taking it back because in business, in close relationships, at work, all across the board, you don't want to react. I think that learning how to be healthy and respond is what you really want. Okay. And sometimes you're going to need to process through and ask yourself the questions. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I reacting to? For me, and I'll share what I was reacting to, was an old feeling like I wasn't getting what I needed, or feeling taken advantage of. And it totally triggered me. And so I was able to continue to work through that in process right now. So, but I knew that, and this was my conscious, super conscious mind said, do not interact with the person until I knew that I could communicate in a healthy way. So you can use me as an example. Okay. So Charles says, do you find women are more emotional reactive than men? I think women, it's an interesting question, Charles. I think women are known to be more emotional. It's one of the stereotypes of the sexes. However, I am going to tell you that there are plenty of men that are reactive. And men may, and if you think about anger, okay, and this is also going to be when we talk about the unhealthy and healthy behaviors. When you think about anger in our society, men tend to act out the anger. It's more okay for men to get angry than for women. So women may have emotional reactions like crying. A lot of women it wasn't okay to be angry, so they turn the anger into tears. And that can be very common for a woman. So I am going to say that most of all, it depends on the person, and it depends on, some people are just more emotional and some people aren't. Some people have shut their emotions down to protect themselves. Some people use anger, as an outer emotion when underneath they may be feeling something else. Like, for example, I have witnessed men go into anger, because I've been a therapist for over many years, and I've worked with both men and women. So I've watched a lot of men react with anger as well, especially when it comes to someone close to them. So women have gotten the label, but it doesn't always mean that women are more emotional or reactive than men. It looks different. I think it looks different. And what happens, I was in the middle of saying something and I totally forgot. So anyway, I just really want to support all of you in knowing that how you were raised is also the biggest condition on how you react and how you handle emotions. Oh, I think another thing that I want to bring out is some people shut down, like I said, and also there are scales of emotional sensitivity, emotional, and we talked about emotional intelligence. And so there's scales of it. And the more emotionally intelligent, the more you're aware of your anger and then are able to respond in healthy ways. So, interesting question. And you know what? I'm actually really curious. I am gonna look into that even more. Maybe Google it or do a little like what the stats are, because I don't know the stats. I just know that women have gotten the label, but is it really true and how true is it? So we'll see. Stay tuned. Maybe next week we'll find out more. So let's talk unhealthy behaviors and healthy behaviors. Okay. So the first thing that I want to share with you is what happens with anger. In therapeutic, we talk about anger being acted out and anger being acted in. Okay, Charles. Charles says, I think that sounds interesting. You're talking about to be able to bring the stats in. I will. I will let you know next week. Okay. So acting out anger is when anger is explosive and it's unhealthy anger. Okay. So when you are acting out anger, you're acting out anger in an unhealthy way. Now, I want to support all of you in just becoming aware. And this is not about judging yourself or being mean or starting to be self-critical, which could be acting in anger and taking anger inward. So this is about becoming more aware of how you handle anger so that you can then make a conscious decision on what you want to do with that anger. So that's what this list is about. Okay. So, and acting out anger. And so when anger is exploded or acting out, like yelling, screaming, verbal attacks, that using words to shame, to blame, to intimidate others, that is all acting out anger. Now, again, acting out anger is all unhealthy ways of expressing anger. And this is being aware of perhaps how you deal with anger. And the more aware you are, then the more you take your power back. This is about you taking your power back so then you can learn what you need to do to turn it around and take your power back to bring it down and control yourself and be responsive instead of reactive. Okay. So physical aggression, hitting, throwing objects, slamming doors, expressing anger through violence. Now, obviously, that's really unhealthy. And now, if you are on, okay, so I am supporting you to become aware if this is you. Now, if you are in a relationship or this is happening to you, this is also a sign that you need to find ways to make yourself safe, to take care of yourself so that you can then feel more emotionally safe. And it's really, when I say emotionally safe, what I mean is first of all, if there's physical violence, you want to be physically safe. If there's emotional violence, like screaming, yelling, verbal attacks, you need to take steps of what's going to help you to feel okay, to feel safe, to feel like you're going to be able to take care of yourself. Like situations of domestic violence, that is something that's really important for you to support yourself and taking care of yourself. And so I want to support you in figuring out. Now, if you have relationships, then you may want to look at for you getting help. And I'll give you the example of Jenny and Jimmy. Remember, Jenny and Jimmy were able to, I mean, Jimmy would be explosive. He was unhealthy. He would be raging at her. And she would go into the reaction of shutting down and freezing. She would go into frozen. She couldn't respond. And that had to do with her past and his past. And so they got themselves into counseling. And once they got themselves into counseling, they were able to start turning around the unhealthy behaviors because both of them were reacting, and they were able to turn around the unhealthy behaviors and start communicating and have healthier behaviors. Anastasia says, why did he rage at her? So what happened with Jimmy was Jimmy grew up in a family where his father was a rager and his mother was a controller manipulator. And so what happened, I'll answer that in a second, Misty. What happened was that when Jenny would do things like, what happened was Jenny would trigger Jimmy's mother. Like she would say something and she would do it unconsciously, because what happens is when two people are really close to each other, and this could be in a romantic relationship, it could be in a friendship, it could be parent-child. When two people are close to each other, they can trigger each other's buttons. Could be bosses, co-workers, business associates. They can trigger each other's buttons. And when that happens, when you get triggered, you can go into the rage. And so Jenny would sometimes do it consciously. She would, a lot of it was unconscious, where she wasn't even aware. She was poking him, or sometimes it was innocent. She wasn't doing anything, but she lived her life like she had to walk on eggshells because she never knew when he was going to blow up. And it wasn't a safe environment. Jimmy would end up feeling ashamed of going into the rage, and Jenny would be like shut down and low self-esteem. Well, they both had low self-esteem because that's what happens in unhealthy relationships where there's anger acted out. And yes, Misty, they were able to work things out. And what I really want to support you in knowing is that it is possible. Jimmy learned anger management techniques. And so when I talk to all of you about counting to 10 or doing breathing exercises or doing your belly breaths or learning how to ground and align, that's emotional regulation techniques. That's all part of what happens so that you can then be able to respond in a healthy way. And yes, each one of them took responsibility for their behavior, and that's what needs to happen. So Jimmy took responsibility for his anger and started learning anger management techniques. And Jenny started learning because what she was doing was acting out anger in a different way. Okay. So she would be angry. It's called passive aggressive. Now, passive aggressive behaviors are also acting out anger behaviors. So, what's a passive aggressive behavior? It's sarcasm, giving the silent treatment, indirect jabs. So, what she was doing and also manipulation, control. Like there's indirect jabs are all part of passive aggressive behavior, forgetting things. So, yes, she had to take responsibility for those behaviors and also her shutting down. She had to work through her response because what was happening for Jenny was her father was a rager. So Jimmy would be triggering her father. And so she learned she needed to heal herself. And both of them did, when I work with couples, they would do counseling individually and counseling together so that they're both working on themselves and the relationship. And yes, they were able to heal and they're still together. So another way anger gets I would say acting in. Now, acting in is when you take it inward. And one of the things that happens is you suppress it, you shut it down, you suppress it, you deny it. But what happens is it's going to come out some way. So a lot of times, depression is anger turned inward. There are other emotions, and there may be other emotions with depression, but a lot of times there's suppressed anger. And another way that what happens acting in behaviors are like self-harm behaviors or destructive behaviors, addictive behaviors like overeating, drinking, gambling, all of those, self-sabotage, even accident prone, bumping into furniture, not being conscious, not being aware. But a lot of times that's because there's anger that's been suppressed or denied. So that is an acting in behavior. And what happens, and all of these are unhealthy behaviors. Okay. Now, if somebody is revenge seeking, that is unhealthy behavior. Revenge seeking, if you're trying to get revenge, that is definitely unhealthy and often unethical behavior, immoral, or so what I am really here to support all of you in doing is, again, understanding what's underneath the anger. What is the anger trying to teach you? What are the feelings underneath? And then being able to deal with it and take and work it out work it through. Now, sometimes you may need a counselor or a coach to help you do that. So, and or a group. I mean, there's anger management groups. So all of that is possible. And another way is acting out anger is blaming others without taking any responsibility. Now, remember, I said Jenny and Jimmy took responsibility for their behaviors and what they were doing in the relationship. And that's really important. It's learning to take responsibility for your behaviors. So I really want to support you in doing that. And like I said, controlling and manipulating behavior, like controlling examples of controlling and manipulative behavior. And that was also happening in the relationship with Jenny and Jimmy, the guilt. If someone is trying to guilt you, they are manipulating. They are being manipulative. That is not okay. Not okay. If someone's threatening you, coercion, and or trying to overpower you, express and try to use their power over, that's all acting out behavior. Not healthy, not appropriate. And then the other thing is acting out is also withdrawal. I mean, I've had clients where they have had parents that used to do the silent treatment for days, months, years. Some of them when they were kids, teenagers, and some even adults. So all of that is acting out anger, and it's harmful and it hurts. And it's what you don't want to be doing, or avoiding, withdrawing, taking love away, taking things away, using things. Now, there's healthy ways of doing it. Like with kids, discipline, you want to use certain things, there's a balance there. But if you're doing something to be manipulative, and again, this is about learning to be aware and to start wondering and questioning. What are your intentions? What is your hidden agenda? What are your motives? So, and now we're going to get to healthy behaviors. And I can see that there is more to talk about with anger. So, excuse me. First of all, before we go on to healthy behaviors, I want to support you in knowing that I am doing a masterclass next Thursday night, July 24th. Women, coaches, therapists, nurses, holistic professionals. 3 keys to become irresistible to your ideal client. And during the masterclass, we're going to be talking about the energy of attraction. We're going to be helping you to clarify and claim your ideal client, and then how to create the messaging, magnetic messaging, so that you're attracting the people that you want to, your soul aligned clients. So next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, July 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern. And Rebel put in the link. It's inspired and empowered living.com /masterclass, MASTERCLASS. So it's the name of the show, inspired and empowered living.com /masterclass. And I invite you to join us. It's a free virtual masterclass. So I look forward to seeing you there. So let's talk healthy behaviors. Okay. So what's a healthy behavior? So when you are responding, okay, so it's learning to notice that you're reacting, and then learning to respond in healthy ways. So when you are able to say and name the emotion clearly, I am feeling annoyed, or I am feeling angry, or right now I am so angry. I'm enraged. Then if you know you're enraged, the first thing you do before you do anything is take a time out. And you want to take a time out. And you want to be able to calm yourself down before you interact with the person, the situation, the experience, and perhaps anybody. Because sometimes it ain't so pretty when you're in a rage or you're really angry or you're really upset. And it's okay. Now, I really want to make this clear. It's okay to be angry. Well, anger is part of being human. In fact, again, and maybe I need to go over this again, is anger is a tool. Anger is a tool for you to become aware that there's something else going on. So it's a powerful emotion and it can be really important and really helpful. So you want to name it, speak it. You may need to take a time out. Now, if you're in a party or a social situation and you notice you're getting angry or annoyed or whatever, and you need to like take a time out, go to the bathroom, excuse yourself, or go outside. And and so that's what you are going to want to do. So you want to go to the bathroom, go outside, take a time out, anything that's going to support you in being healthy. You want to channel the anger into action. Now, if you want, like some of the healthy ways that I talked about is being able to use your breath, being able to take a walk outside, being able to run or exercise your way through, moving your body through the anger, breathing through it so that you're letting it out in healthy ways. So you're not hurting yourself, someone else, or the environment. And when I say the environment, what I mean is you're not being destructive to property or someone else's property. Really important. Then you may want to channel your anger into creative pursuits, being able to draw or write or do something creative. Allowing yourself to create is an amazing channel for expressing anger in a healthy way. Some of the best artists have channeled their emotions, not just anger, but they channel their emotions into their art. And it moves us. So think about how can you use creative ways to channel your anger in a healthy way. You may need support. You may need to seek therapy or group or coaching to work through it, or anger management classes. All of those are possible. And learning how to practice awareness. So, and that's what I'm talking about, is learning to be aware, because it's in that awareness then you can take action and make a decision, a conscious decision on what you choose to do. Even getting yourself, even becoming aware, I'm angry or I'm reacting like you're at a party or a social situation. I need to take a time out. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to breathe. I need to go outside, get some air. That is you making a very conscious decision to take care of yourself so that you are then able to then discover what action to take. Empowered action. And you want to do breathing exercises, grounding, breath work. Yeah, everybody breathe. So, those are healthy ways. Now, I talked about expressing. Obviously, I'm not going to get to healthy expression of how to communicate once you've become clear. Like, how did Jenny and Jimmy turn their relationship around into healthy communication. So we're going to be talking about that more next week. And I will also I will bring through some stats about how with emotions and women versus men and what the difference is, what the studies are. I'm actually curious myself. So we will find out. So stay tuned and you will see. Okay. So I want to remind you, and Joel says thank you. I want to remind you, we are live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, and you can join the chat when you come live. So I love my people who ask the questions and comment. I'm very grateful to all of you. So thank you. And you can be part of that too. So you can come live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on Talk Forward TV, my YouTube channel, Facebook, and w4wn.com. Now, we are also on the podcast. So you may be listening to the podcast, and you can listen to the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And I want to thank you. Anastasia says, we enjoy being here. I'm so grateful to you because I enjoy that you're enjoying it and that you're here. And I am grateful to all of you. And so I wish you all an inspired and empowered day or night and an inspired and empowered week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.